Welcome to Like Pigs in Space, an arts and culture podcast. I'm Aaron Mason.
And I'm Max Mason.
Welcome to another week.
Yeah.
We did the follow-up and, what'd you say? What'd you call it?
I think I called it a field report.
Yeah, field report. I like that. And, rundown of the first 10 or first 9. And that was really fun to go back and then give us a chance to try out each other's new things or introduced things. And so that was a lot of fun. I did enjoy reading the book or listening to the book.
Yeah.
I hate to admit, but I'm still thinking about that book a lot.
Yeah, it does that.
I think I'm probably thinking more about that book than you are about the book I had you read in some ways.
Yeah. You gotta read it again. I think it benefits from a second read.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sunk in pretty well, mostly because I was listening to it while driving at night.
Oh,
so extra poignant.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I will say, I didn't say it last week, but it happened last week that we have over 100 views.
All right.
All together.
Yay.
So that's pretty cool. Pretty fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Just in the interest of making people aware of things that I've found recently, because I probably won't examine, but I was just showing you that there's a new book out called Hansel and Gretel that Stephen King wrote the words for, but then the drawings are from Maurice Sendak from a set design he did, but he had all the drawings drawn out. And so it's kind of cool because Maurice Sendak passed away a number of years ago and he still had material. Let's see if it says.
Well, isn't he responsible for my name? A little bit.
Yeah. Because we had an argument. We had a discussion about which version, what Max's longer name should be. And one was Maxwell and the other was Maximus or something like that. And we just said just Max. Yep. So I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check on that. And then another thing is I was listening. It was on the webs. A reel went by.
Uh-huh.
And this guy's like, oh, this is the best. He passed. So Maurice Sendak passed in 2012. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is leftover stuff. And that's really cool. I mean, to have that much. And actually, speaking of Maurice Sendak having a lot of leftover artwork, that's going to kind of play into today's kind of the discussion today. And so in a weird way. So it's weird that it connects.
Nice.
The other is I was listening to just a reel went by about music, and because I listened to enough of them that things pop up, and this guy goes, "This is the best band of the post-punk era that you've never heard of," and they were active from the debut album is in 1980, and they broke up in 88. But it's called The Sound.
Okay.
And my analysis of it is the first album. It's called Jeopardy. It's I can't stop listening to it. Anyway, it's everything I wished Joy Division was and isn't. So
okay.
You listen to the One Big Love Will Tear Us Apart, and you go, oh man, I want to hear more of their songs. And then you go and listen to the rest of their songs, and you're like, oh my gosh. Just stop dragging this out for so far. It's just so dragged. And then theirs is that upbeat with the darkness and the feedback on everything. I'm like, how do you get feedback on drums? Is what it sounds like. It's like,
oh, that's cool.
But clangy and then dark, but then upbeat and then good driving rhythms in some of the songs. You're like, oh, this is so good. Anyway, that's my couple pitches for the week is apropos of nothing. Those were just some fun discoveries this week that I can't stop listening to.
That kind of sounds like it's reminding me of, I can't remember if this is the band name or the album name, but it's Have a Nice Life. I think they're debut album. Let me check. But it's kind of like that where it was all home recorded. Oh. And it's very loud. It was I think a lot of stuff was recorded through the microphone on their laptop.
Oh, wow.
And they spent $200 on it all together to make everything.
That's funny. In this case, I think they just got a bad label. It was a really small label and didn't get promoted because it was a major. I mean, they were they were known. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, the band is Have a Nice Life. The album
Okay.
is Death Consciousness.
I've seen that go by somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
think it's a little bit more, it is post-punk, but it's also in that like shoegazy
Mm.
realm. But it's also cool because they created this whole like secret history of this
Oh,
like
yeah.
weird religion. Um
So
that they like
21
published a book.
Pilots, only a
Yeah,
little weirder.
a little weirder, yeah. Yeah, it was like this like 80-page book or something, like
Oh, wow.
pretty significant.
So this one, when I had Josie listen because she was hanging out,
Mhm.
uh, and it really does kind of sound like it sounds like Arctic Monkeys' parents. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
like this sounds a lot like early '90s. I'm like Arctic Monkeys. I'm like, yeah, that's
Mhm.
it. So it's kind of got that feel to it too, which is they were a heavy influence on Arctic Monkeys, but I have no idea if they were or not. It's just kind of
Yeah.
interesting to hear some of those sounds.
Right.
So that's it's always fun to discover new stuff, even if it's super old. So
Yeah.
uh,
It's funny that you get videos that's like super old music, and I got a recommendation for an album that like came out like 2 weeks ago
right,
that I'd never
right.
heard of, and it's like, oh man, this is great. It's
Oh, I'm 2 weeks behind. Oh no, right?
yeah.
That is funny. I do like. There's another guy. It's just kind of funny to hear the impressions because he's a Gen Z music producer. He listens to old he listened to the Doors first album. I'm like, I never heard the Doors. I thought everybody's
Mm,
recommend. I'm like, and what I was commenting, and this is kind of an interesting, I guess this is a subtopic of conversation, because I was like, it's really weird that he's listening to this and he's having this. So there's a song on there called Alabama Song that
mhm.
is. So there is a guy named Bertolt Brecht who is a German composer and did musicals and stuff in Germany
Okay.
in the 30s.
Oh yeah.
But they were super edgy and
Mm.
like he has one called the Three Penny Opera, and
That sounds familiar for
it's
some
super
reason.
legendary. So Mac, the song Mac the Knife, it's a 50s song, Mac the Knife.
Yeah.
That's from, so that 1950s song is from a 1930s German play
Okay.
with a character Mac the Knife, and he came
Yeah.
up with the thing in Mac the Knife is also that there's this king of the beggars who
Mm.
runs this organization where he trains people to be beggars. Like, okay, you need to have a
Oh,
limp, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I think that's been used in other places, but that's what it originally, like he has this, people walk in normally and they walk out looking handicapped,
yeah.
and he kind of assigns them a handicap, and then
Yeah.
they bring all the money back, and he's this like kingpin. And so the guy is super edgy and subversive. And so this Alabama Song is from a different musical, and it was called Alabama Song in the 30s in Germany, was translated into English, and it's the only song in the play that is done in English,
Oh, okay.
and the rest of the things in German. Like, it's
Oh,
intentionally that way. And it's really cool because Ray Manzarek is a classically trained pianist, organist, and
right.
the guitar player was a flamenco guitar player, and so
Oh,
like
yeah.
everybody in the band super, and of course Jim Morrison is a poet. Everybody in the band is super something else, but super
Mhm.
talented in that something else. And so they have very complex music. They
Yeah.
change keys and change tempos and have interesting flourishes, and the guy's just going, whoa, this is just amazing. And he's liking all the other songs, and all the other songs are great, but he gets to a big one like Light My Fire, which is a huge hit, and
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know if I really like this one, and it's like 7 minutes long. I'm like, this is like one of the biggest hits of all time.
Yeah.
And
Huh.
but again, it gets it does, the full album version is very long, and it does get
Yeah.
lost, and the radio edit was a little bit easier to, you don't get so much layering of, which if you're listening to it for a psychedelic experience,
Sure.
it's great, right?
Yeah.
It keeps going. And then the end is also on that album,
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "What's going on here?" And because it breaks into the little talking part where he's like, "Father, yes, son, I want to kill you." Uh, and he's just like, "Well," and when I was listening to the Doors when I was a teenager, all this stuff was known. I mean, they were still playing the songs on the radio. It was kind of pervasive. The end was in Apocalypse Now. Everybody, it was like
Oh, yeah.
culturally present, even though, and it wasn't that old. It was maybe 15 years since they'd been, that's not long ago.
Yeah, that's
And
not
so it
that
was, and so I was like, "Oh, that's weird. He doesn't know all this stuff." And he's like, your mom's like, "Is it weird because he doesn't know it because it's a 50, 60-year-old album?" I'm like, "No, it's weird because when I was growing up, it was known. It was just part of what you knew. And it's been so long that it's no longer part of the consciousness."
Oh,
And that's what's weird, is that they were so popular and so part of musical culture. And then they faded away in a sense. And people don't just inherently know all these these tidbits that are just kind of known back when I was listening to them. So that's what the passage of time always is an interesting thing of how it impacts people's understanding of what an artist is doing. And so there's some subtleties to the album that he didn't pick up on, but which is fine because it's listening to it for the music itself, he was still very impressed. So so that brings up I guess I'll jump in here because 20 minutes in, but
We're not talking about the Doors today.
No, I'm not. But which is kind of funny. So what do you think, and these are a few questions for you to answer, what do you think what's the purpose of art? And we'll say visual art just to kind of refine it. Yeah.
I think that at least visual art the purpose is to like capture an emotion.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
At least as far as like the art I like, it's not as like, I think Josie got really mad at me one time because I said I don't really like landscape art.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Too much. It's like I get why it's important, why it can be impressive to capture nature that well, but I don't know.
And it can really pull a room together.
Yeah.
As you look at the landscape art in my background, it's more and really I understand that. I like landscape art for because you can use it to do kind of fill in the colors and stuff, but I also like whimsical stuff to be incorporated in. So I can appreciate that. I'm not upset that you don't like. So that's kind of the debate here. Do you think that an artist, their emotions and their intent is always necessary to be known?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, not to say that if the art is good enough, you can get the intention. Yeah. In one way you can, but I think just knowing that the art is existing,
right, you
can kind of deduce that there was a reason why it was created.
Sure.
And that reason might be different from person to person, but you know that it isn't existing out of nothing.
Right. And I do have varying, I think there's a dependency here on type of art and whether or not something needs to be known. And so intent may be needed so that we understand the level of interpretation that we're responsible for, let's say. So I know there's paintings, there's poems, there's stories, there's movies that are imbued with a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of reasons why things were very carefully done. There's, for example, T.S. Eliot has a poem called The Wasteland, and he was so engaged in every line and every meaning that if you get it, you can get it with all these footnotes. Those aren't footnotes from the educators. Those are footnotes from T.S. Eliot. Okay. Like, he was neurotic about this poem. It's a huge, long poem, and he wanted people to understand what he meant.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I think there's a line from it I'm reading the Wasteland of the Dark Tower series right now.
Right.
I think that kind of comes into play.
Yes. Yeah. And T.S. Eliot has got some very poignant lines. One of my favorites. So there may be, I think that's going to be a future episode, is a particular poem of his. So that's cool. long enough to be an episode.
Yeah.
And then there's another, and I have another poem one I have an idea for that's almost the exact opposite. But
Cool.
There's poems. I mean, there's art, visual art that has some distinct meanings that are, a political event or a historical event or a social issue that the art is meant to have a commentary on. And that's important to know. But there is art that is, let's say, I guess it would be art for art's sake. And so I think we're going to delve into, in this discussion, somebody who did abstract art in a way.
Okay.
And so how much exposure have you had to visual artists?
Like the people themselves?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. So let me share my experience, because I had a friend who was getting his master's in art, in studio art, and so I got a lot of exposure to artists in that. Just is the community of artists that were at ASU at the time, and some of them were very famous, and were staff, or they were there. They were guests, and so he would tell me lots of things. Like, well, we only have 2 kids because in the art community, I mean, having kids at all is a handicap. And I was like, whatever. That's your opinion. And he was, listen, he's a great guy. This is just, we have differing views. And then I'd see something like Monet, who had 7 kids. And it was super successful and famous. And and so I'm like, well, that's not really an indicator. And then it was always interesting to talk to him, because he had a lot of knowledge. There's a there's a line, or there's a story in one of the Pink Water memoir things that he does, and he was talking to some art students, and they go, and he's trying to mention famous artists, and the guy goes, no, I don't know that. He goes, but I like Jim's stuff. Jim? Yeah, Jim. He paints real good. I'm like, is Jim a friend of yours?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And Bobby, his stuff's real good. And that was kind of what it was like talking to my friend, because he's like, oh, I really like this artist, this artist, and this artist. All those artists were very new, or friends, or like, it was very localized. And when I tried to talk about art history, there wasn't as much knowledge, interest, otherwise, like maybe technique, but he was very focused on production of art, not art history. So it was an interesting break. And a lot of artists who do art have some darkness, some trauma, some, and really, I honestly, in one stroke, I say, I haven't had enough sadness, tragedy, darkness in my life to be a truly great artist. But I'm also thankful that I don't have enough sadness, darkness, and trauma in my life to be a truly great artist. And I still, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy what I produce. I don't have, when I do visual art, I maybe don't have a very strong voice. I do better at writing, but I do like to produce visual art. So
I was thinking, there was this art girl when I was at college. When I was doing the like early morning custodial.
Yeah.
So she did art, and she's still doing art, which is cool. But I could tell that she was a very artsy person, because one time we were talking about the Beatles, and she had never listened to the Beatles. And I was like, oh, well, you should listen to this album, or just like find the best of and just listen through, see what you like. And like, she came back the next day, and she's like, oh yeah, I really like that A Day in a Life song.
Yes.
It's like,
yeah, of course.
Oh, that one, that weird one.
Yeah.
Of course you like that one.
Yeah, because there's a lot of emotions in that one.
Yeah.
So a lot of different scenes.
The really long, dissonant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great song. But so getting back to, we got studio art and having a strong voice and what that means. Oh, that's the next question. Okay, so we won't go too far into it, but when it comes to art, do you feel that the impact of nature versus nurture in comfort or development of artistic talent? So what do you think there's a impact of both? Do you think people are naturally creative, or do you think that can be nurtured by how they were brought up?
I think you can learn to be a great artist. I do think that there's some people who will probably have like a natural interest in it,
okay,
and a natural like attraction towards art. So maybe they'd start earlier at developing that voice.
Right.
But I don't think it's impossible to develop it out of just desire.
Okay.
Or practice.
So do you think, and this is just to gauge your perception, do you think that we created a household that would nurture artistic expression?
I think so.
Okay.
I think more the household did, and and so like I know you had tried to teach me guitar before,
Right.
and I didn't want to do it.
Okay.
But you left the instruments around and accessible.
Okay.
And so when I decided that I did want to do it on my own, I didn't have to go looking for them. I could just grab the instruments and
Good.
pick up where I wanted to.
I'm glad you said that. I'll get back to it real in a second, but another element is I think that having a place to do your art and having it ready to go is a great benefit to creativity. So
yeah.
So building on what you just said and the observation, I'm glad that observation comes through. You said you fed into my my hope. So I'll just introduce it like this. I'm going to read this paragraph. So this is a book about this artist done by their grandson, who is in charge of their archives for this artist. So Alexander Calder was born 22nd July 1898 in Lawton, Pennsylvania. His mother, Nanette, was a painter. His father, Alexander, was a sculptor. He used to pose for both of his parents throughout his childhood and matured in the culture of the studio environment during the time of industrial mechanization. So beginning of the 20th century was when he was growing up. This nurtured his innate mechanical ability and surrounded by an extended community of artists, his own artistic instinctual improvisation flourished at a young age. When he was 8, Calder's parents gave him his first tools and made certain he would always have a workshop to make toys, jewelry for his sister's dolls, games for his family, and works of art, most of which he gave back to them. So he'd make art and give it to his family. And that's important. And we'll get into that later on. At the age of 11, he cut and folded a single piece of brass sheet into a duck that is remarkably sophisticated. And I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a few things like this later on where he took a flat piece of something and could visualize how to cut it out and fold it into a 3D sculpture. But for 11 years old, it is everything you wish a modern art piece would be. It's impressionistic, it's clever, it's absolutely brilliant. And then what he did is he went on to get a degree in engineering. And I did listen to a few podcasts, and there's only like 2.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 in English and 1 in Spanish about Calder that were available. One is about a particular piece of art. They were just kind of examining it. And the other one is his grandson, Alexander S.C. Rower, who wrote this book.
Oh.
And he is discussing the archiving process and making a place to keep track of all of his grandfather's art, which is significant. I don't know, it would be interesting to see if there's a race. I think so. I know somebody else that has a tremendous archive but it's different is Andy Warhol. So Andy Warhol would collect, he just had all these like office boxes, and he'd just collect stuff and put it all in the box, and it was just an idea for that day. And so he had like days and days and days of just collecting stuff. I think Calder would win on weight.
Yeah.
But also maybe on volume. So just to preview, a documentary I saw on Alexander Calder a long time ago said that they had cataloged 16,000 pieces of artwork.
Jeez. Yeah.
The updated number after they started archiving is over 25,000 pieces of art. So all this plays into, and this is kind of the bigger discussion, because we could focus on a specific piece, and I will mention some distinct things he did, but I didn't want to focus on just one piece. I want to kind of focus on the idea of the artist and the style of artist he was. And what's interesting is the interconnectedness of the different things that I've presented so far. Is kind of funny because he got his engineering degree from Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey. And Hoboken is where Daniel Pinkwater lived, and then he got his degree just ahead of the Great Depression. Well, about 10 years, 10 years ahead of the Great Depression. So kind of same era. And so modern artist, modern era, modern to mid-century, and also the other element, and this goes with Pinkwater, goes with some of the other ones, is I'll say chaos.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because I like the idea of it, but it's not really chaotic. It's not chaotic in that it's uncontrolled. It's chaotic in that it's intentionally meant to, his art is meant to be acted upon by different forces.
Okay.
So, do you know what kind of artwork Calder did?
I know that, well, sculpture,
Yeah.
yeah, and did a lot of stuff out of like wire.
Yeah, so let's talk about his first efforts. He started making sculptures out of wire, and in fact, he used to call it drawing with wire. So Calder used to go to he went to Paris. He went and did his art degree, and then went to Paris and started doing art, and became friends with a few little known folks like Joan Miro, Jean Arp, Fernand Lagarde, Piet Mondrian, and Marcel Duchamp.
Oh, okay.
Just unknowns.
Yeah, sure.
So Miro, does the cutouts, right? They're 2D, kind of very colorful, abstract shapes.
Okay.
Right? And so when you look at them, and some of them have, intentional, they'll move from an intentional picture, but they're always kind of like flat with shapes that aren't put in a 3D space. They're kind of just there. And a lot of them, when you look at Calder's work and Miro, you can tell they hung out.
Nice.
And then, do you know what Mondrian did?
I don't.
Mondrian, have you ever seen the thing where there's the primary, they're like rectangles and squares that are different shapes and all kind of pieced together like tile work, but it's
yeah.
That's Mondrian. And so when you see that, you can see the influence. And that kind of, it's abstract, colorful, whimsical type of thing. So he used to go, like in that period, he would go to parties and he'd just sit there and do, he was kind of like the people on the corner, they do, or like Disneyland, they do your portrait.
Like caricatures.
Caricatures. Yeah, he'd do drawings of people out of wire.
Oh, nice.
He just sit there, and that's where the volume comes from. Is this guy he just was always going, right? That's the kind of the impressive thing. So to the point of he finally got his own show, this new art gallery somewhere in the Midwest paid for him to come out. He showed up in his overcoat, no luggage, nothing, and they're like, "Where's the art?" And he pulls a huge thing of wire out of his pocket, goes, "It's right here." He made the entire exhibit on site, like right then.
Yeah.
And because that's what he was used to doing. He could go to a party and just, and he was just constantly moving. So nice. I think that's interesting. It was kind of, I kind of think of it as, I think it would be difficult maybe to go to like a Reggie Watts concert because he probably makes like all the songs could be new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's kind of, he kind of made it up without the assistance of technology, but still it's a brilliance, right? It's a brilliance to be able to create good art at the moment.
Yeah.
And so the development of that is he also did illustrations. So he did know how to draw. And he said that he went and did illustrations for a magazine of the Barnum Bailey Circus at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then one of the next things he did is he did an entire circus out of wire. And he used to go perform. And what it was is he had that mechanical mind. He saw the rigging of how the circus was done, and then he did it in miniature.
Nice.
And there's a video out there that shows him in later years performing it. He did it when he was much younger, but even older, he still had it, and he was performing the whole circus. And he
Yeah.
even had it so like the trapeze, they'd go and they'd flip and catch on the other person, and
Right.
then he had like somebody would throw an axe into the
Wow.
like at somebody spinning, or like lion
But all
tamer.
just miniature and
Yeah,
wire.
just made little horses and people, and this is the whole thing, and did this whole exhibit, and people would just come and watch it. Just it was fairly brilliant.
Hmm.
And they kept doing wire sculptures. He has a very famous one of Josephine Baker,
Okay.
who was a musician and dancer. Just neat stuff. So then the evolution of the wire was the abstract shapes, and then he'd have them kind of standing there, but he always had this thing, if you're going from the circus, the natural kind of evolution is there was motion in the circus. So the thing about Calder's work, like the portraits, they'd kind of hang there and kind of would move. And the circus had movement that was controlled. And then early on, he'd do these sculptures that were wire, but he'd put a little motor and they'd spin. Yeah, so lots of motion. That was kind of where things started going. So eventually, he started doing the thing where he hangs everything in the air. So this one's kind of so things like this where the wires are kind of suspended or
like counterbalance.
like this. And counterbalance and hanging. So those are called, as we all know, mobiles or mobiles. That they were named that by Marcel Duchamp.
Oh, okay.
So Alexander Calder is the inventor of the mobile, which is really funny because now they're just like hanging over babies' cribs, right?
Yeah.
But it hadn't been done, and so it's always interesting to see the very interesting origin of a very commonplace thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like this like underground of art to baby cribs. And...
right. So he just started doing the balancing thing because then it would hang there, and then the air movement would act upon it. And so this is where that chaos element comes into play. So that was what drew me to Calder when I first saw it. I think there was a series on PBS that would highlight different artists. And so I saw some of it. They had some, and then they had an exhibit come to Scottsdale. And so I got to go see it back mid 90s. And then my first trip to Chicago, there's one called, I think it's Flamingo. So that's some of the monumental sculptures he did. So he did mobiles, and then he did stationary large sculptures of steel, and those were called stubiles. So
okay.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
But those ones are they're incredible. A lot of them, there's like red, black, white, not usually a mix of colors. Some of them, there's some of the mobiles that are stabile base, and then the mobile. So we went to the LA County Museum of Art way back when we went to, do you remember going to La Brea Tar Pits?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that same visit, we went over there, and there was some Calder sculptures in the outside the museum.
Wasn't there one also at the museum when we went to Washington, D.C.?
Yes. Yeah. As there should be.
Yeah.
And so they pop up. Again, so many pieces. They pop up everywhere. I can tell you also, when your grandpa Ashcraft passed away, we had to go. We had to go to West Virginia to pick up the Suburban.
Okay.
And so our transfer was in Pittsburgh. So we had to leave the main terminal and then go over to this little commuter one. So you kind of leave one, go through the center hub, and we walk out, and all of a sudden the whole middle of this thing is filled with a Calder sculpture. It's called Pittsburgh, and it's a 500-pound mobile installed in the atrium. And so it was Calder created the piece in 1958. It's been displayed at 3 different Pittsburgh airport terminals since 1959. So they've had it for a while. It's massive. It is just absolutely huge, and it's big white things, and it's really cool. So I walk through, and when when you're a fan of Calder, you know a Calder when you see it.
Yeah.
Like, and so we walked out, and there it was, and I was like, I know we're in a hurry, but I need to see this.
Yeah.
And so it caused us to pause for a minute, and it was a cool event. You happen on these things, and it's always
Right.
surprising. Came upon one in Scottsdale, came upon one in LA, happened on one in DC, Pittsburgh, Chicago. Went there intentionally. That's one of the few I went to intentionally. And then I was walking around Yale's campus. They had one sitting there in the middle of the campus. It's not there anymore, but it was there.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come back. I think they were doing renovations in the area. So it's just that thing where you start ending up, there's so many of them. He was always working, and so they just pop up and you run into them, and and some of them are, the one in Chicago is there. It's huge.
Not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere without a whole lot of effort. Other pieces travel. So it's and so I like that kind of art, and the difference. So this is some of the difference. A lot of people imbue their art with a certain emotion that and it's about their feelings and what they are experiencing. I think because of how he was raised and because of who he is, because he's a very generous and happy guy, which I always appreciated. That was another characteristic that really drew me to Calder. Makes me. It's probably outside of poetry, I'd say metal sculpture is my thing that I most desire to do, because as in the art world, because of his example, and because he could be a happy guy and he could be generous. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the thing that his stuff is, and what his grandson commented, and what others, his love for humans.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he wanted to make something, and his pieces are what they are for you. It's your experience, and your experience is going to be different than almost everybody's, because it will have moved a different way. It will be a different time of day. It will be, a lot of the stuff's outside being acted upon. And so it's really about putting this out into the world and letting people experience it, and letting the world act upon the piece and create a new experience in a new moment for the person.
Yeah.
Even with the stabiles, because there's so many angles, it's not a single thing. It is not figurative. It's an impression or an abstract.
Yeah.
So the one in Chicago is called Flamingo. It looks nothing like, nor is it the same color as a flamingo. It's probably, it's like I gave it a name because I had to give it a name. I don't know.
Sure.
I think it was just more to say, see if it looks like a flamingo to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it does. Maybe there's some motion to it, but there's so many different angles. Right.
There's one angle that looks like a flamingo, and you gotta find it.
Right. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's find the angle, and then you find out it's the 5th floor on the building on the northwest corner.
Yeah.
Something. It's an aerial view. So there's that. And it was really interesting to see that one particular piece he did is called, which is it's great, and it still exists. It's called Mercury Fountain.
Oh, okay.
And so he built this fountain, and then the water is mercury, not water.
Oh, nice.
It's really cool.
That's cool.
Really toxic, but really cool.
Yeah.
It's a great piece. But some of what I want to kind of express about him. So why I asked about the role of the artist and things like that is kind of the bigger discussion of who are we thinking of when we do art? Who are we benefiting? Is it for our own vanity, or is it for the enjoyment of others, or is it to bring joy?
Yeah.
I think we all start off, well, for you, like, why do you do what you do when you're trying to be creative?
I think it's still pretty personal, because I don't really know if I have an audience.
Okay.
Or if something is going to be in front of people, for a long time. So I want to make, when I do music, I just want to make something that I would enjoy myself. And maybe it's not necessarily like my style or my my own, I don't know what the right word is, but I just want to make something that I would enjoy first.
Okay.
Because I think if, at least for me, if I don't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't
Right.
want to do it.
So you would prioritize what you see as something that brings you happiness over trying to adhere to some notion of what it should be.
Yeah. And I think when there have been some times where I'm like, okay, this piece I know is gonna be performed and people are gonna hear this. I want to create something that will hint at an emotion or something that will
Sure.
cause a thought.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, especially in writing poetry, because you agonize a lot of times about which word, and
Hmm.
because poetry is an economy of language, just like writing. I guess in writing music, you're not trying to use all of the notes,
Yeah.
right? And
Usually.
in writing a poem, you're not trying to use all of the words. You're trying to use the words that express the emotion that you're trying to get across in the poem. I think that, do you feel like you are influenced by empathy in anything that you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I think that's the thing that I try for often. I've had some really interesting experiences because I think it can come across as being intuitive or clairvoyant, some of the
Mm,
things I've written about different individuals.
yeah.
But I also think it's just being empathetic and observant of the real inspiration behind certain actions that are being taken.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this would fall under empathy, but what I was thinking is like I've done arrangements of like hymns before.
Sure.
And there's been points where it's like, okay, I know what the lyric here is, and I think that's an important lyric. And so I'm gonna do something with the music that will draw attention to that lyric.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's empathy at all, but
Well,
I think it is wanting to create a moment where everyone is feeling
sure.
the words there.
I think that is sensing the emotions of the observer and trying to help them understand how you feel about the piece, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, highlighting the important thoughts and phrases is, you have to have empathy. You have to understand how other humans feel,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I had an experience. I went to a town. It was Columbia, Missouri, is the town. There's a
Oh,
university.
okay.
I think it's University of Missouri. But we were walking around looking for food. Some random guy on the street said, "Oh, you should try this place over here." It's a Polish restaurant, and
Mm.
it was just like a little house
Yeah.
in a college town. How that happens, you find
Yeah.
you probably see that.
Right.
You see that in Portland a lot,
Right.
where it's a house in the middle of on a main street that's now a
Yeah.
main street. Maybe wasn't at one point, and somebody's put a business in there. And so this was a Polish restaurant. We walk in, it felt like you were somebody had turned their front room into a cafeteria. But
Yeah.
it was delightful, and there's a little old lady cooking, taking the orders. It was very low key, and when I left after that experience, it was delicious. It was wonderful. I wrote a poem about it and expressed kind of why the inspiration for the poem was why Polish food is the way it is, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like super flashy. A lot of it's stews and hearty. Nothing, it's not tending towards gourmet, it's tending towards functionality.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
as is with many traditional cuisines. And so I wrote this, and a lady this is in South Carolina, one of the ladies at the church, she was from Poland,
Mhm.
grew up in Poland, and married some guy from Connecticut, and they were in South Carolina. Go figure. But and so I shared it with him because we were good friends, and he's reading. It's like, oh, that's nice, and he looks over, and his wife's in tears,
Oh,
and it's like, what? He goes, you don't understand. That's exactly what it is. Like, I hit the meaning of the food. She's like,
yeah.
you don't understand. That's what the food means to us. He's completely right. Like, and that's just observing the elements of what it is, the people that are serving it, the people that are eating it, it was just observation, but it's
Mhm.
being empathetic, not viewing it from my point of view, but viewing it from why somebody would create a dish like this.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's happened a few times with different poems I've written where people goes, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you knew this much about this topic." And I'm like, "Don't," but
Yeah.
I can observe how people act and be aware of it and see it from an emotional level.
Mhm.
And so I think that plays into I think Calder was empathetic to others and knew and wanted to bring joy. I think that was mostly it. Like the circus is very playful. His artwork is playful and fun. And he was just always working because he loved it. It wasn't a torment. He wasn't a tortured artist. He was a working artist.
Yeah.
and, uh, and so
Do you think that plays into like how his art was able to become the baby crib mobiles is because it's inherently fun loving or
right. And I think that's because of the person. Like he's not you don't years later have a problematic issue with the fact that we have stuff inspired by Calder because
Sure.
he was a happy guy. He wasn't quickness of his art and his ability. So just to move on, because just to kind of add to that, but a different element. So in his studio, he was completely surrounded by his art because he produced so much of it that it was just crammed in there. And often he would discover lost art. I'll show an example.
his own lost art.
Yeah, and then take inspiration from it. But
Oh.
I just, if you can see.
Oh yeah,
there's
just a mess.
yeah, there's a picture of his desk that he worked from, and it's just papers and mobiles hanging and pieces hanging and half ideas crammed in there. And I can tell you that when I have a space set up and I have, kind of my creative detritus strewn about, I'm much more productive.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the McElroys. They have like their live stream show that they do.
Yes.
And it was only Travis and Griffin, but they did tours of their like home offices.
Yeah.
And it's funny how different their approach is because like Griffin's is very deliberate and things have spaces, but then Travis's is just like full of stuff and little things everywhere.
Which that agrees with who they are.
Yeah.
and I would tend to be a Travis.
Yeah. I think they were talking because Justin wasn't there, and there's like I think Justin is like the exact middle of our two styles.
Yeah. It is funny because I think I identify with Travis the most. So
yeah.
So just some anecdotes. He liked to entertain. So they'd have people over for meals. The thing that was really interesting is that so he had materials around. So many times, often he would create the utensils for the meal.
Okay.
On the day they were having the meal.
Yeah.
And then often everybody would go home with the utensils that he made for that meal, which is why they didn't have utensils.
Yeah.
Nobody left his house without a gift or without a piece of art. That's the kind of thing. And I guess I wanted to go back and mention. So one of the things that I think he symbolized or he emulated is kind of a tenet of my belief system where we're supposed to use our talents and all that we have to help others. It's help the church, but it's help the church to help others, right? And so we're supposed to use our talents. And so there's been that debate in my head at all times of, well, if I'm if I have this talent, I do need to make money, but I also need. So I always try and make sure that there's a portion of my life where I am using my talents to help others and not expecting it to be recognized or reimbursed or, nothing. I just to do it to help others. And I think that's how he lived his life. And so there's a couple things. So if we're following this logic, there's a book called the World's Greatest Salesman or the Greatest Salesman That Ever Lived or something like that. It's by Og Mandino.
Okay.
And he tells a story about this guy and he's trying to be successful and he meets this like guru type who says, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go and earn your money and you're going to give half of your money away. Every time you get money, half of it gets given away. And then there's some other steps, but that was the big one. And so if you're giving half your money away and you're trying to be successful, you have to be more successful to be able to survive on half your money.
Mm.
So, but
Sure.
what that does in return is that you're giving and you're improving others' lives, and you are more successful as you give away. When you hoard, so kind of the counter to that is there's this like dragon's hoard mentality, which is the opposite, where you're hoarding your wealth and not sharing, and you are looking inward, or give it away and look outward, and that outward looking characteristic is very Calder.
Okay.
You know, he was doing art to get art out there in the world. He wasn't doing art for his own vanity.
Yeah.
And if you see pictures of him, he didn't have vanity. He's a scruffy old dude, and he had a gruff voice, and he was kooky. And so all the things that, again, I try to emulate.
Yeah.
That generosity. So there's give everything away, serve others, be generous. I try and be generous with others. I like to. We had everybody over when Ezra was speaking, and Law and Amelia were here, and they have some similar interests to us, and so we were able to give them some things that we didn't need anymore. Like we had a couple violins that nobody's playing them, and they're nice. Veronica's green violin has an incredible sound for being a stupid green violin.
Yeah.
And then we had one from the Bills picking parlor. Yeah.
That bluegrass store in Columbia.
Yeah, and the bow was still pretty decent shape. Like it's better than the one that so a couple of their kids play violin. So they're like, here, go, take it.
Yeah.
Enjoy. More power, because, we give a lot of stuff away because we could sell stuff. We do sell, we do some stuff that we sell because it's fun, but eBay type stuff. But giving away, enriching somebody's life is always way funner, And plus, I told him I'm a little bit of an evangelist for my habits or hobbies, because I keep giving away typewriters. So that I'm like, I can't type on 13 typewriters at once, and so I find a one that isn't particularly super unique, special, that I'm trying to, I got it for its uniqueness, just that it was really a good typewriter, and I got a good deal on it, or it's just a really good typewriter. I have a few that just work. They just work. Yeah. They're just great. But they're not, I like the quirky ones, and they're more, and so I've given a couple away recently to try and get people addicted to typewriters, because I guess I'm a junkie. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think I always find more joy in giving than trying to hoard. So what's the lesson to learn in that? Like, do you feel that it is important to be generous with your talents, and do you think that is it a positive thing? What do you think the impact is of being generous with your talents?
I agree that I think it's just like to help enrich other people's lives.
Okay.
I think I have enjoyed sharing my talents more when it's maybe not something that is expected.
Okay, I agree. Yeah.
Just something where it's like, I had this thought, I think this person would enjoy this, that I can do, and give it to them.
There you go.
Doing things for others without being asked to.
Yeah, I think that's a neat thing. I think it always enriches both. Whenever we had tough times when we were younger, the best way to feel better was to go serve somebody, go help somebody out, forget your worries for a little bit. That's always been a good thing. I think that when I'm thinking about how to behave and how to interact with others, I do think of Calder a lot. So in a rotation, there's a lot of people I think of that as examples, and I try and remember those examples so that I can remember to do better things. Also, the work ethic is he just kept going, and he never stopped. And so I do try and do wire stuff, just as I have several spools of wire around the house, and just to try and keep the practice. I'm not on his level, but I keep trying. So I think that's important. I think that some of the things I've noticed is artists that endure are artists that you don't. I think there's a high intellect. So I was thinking of musicians. Some of the bands that just continue to generate albums and continue to generate albums that don't fall off too much from what they were are generally fairly intelligent individuals in the band.
Yeah.
They're not just a one note thing. They're not just a singer. If you're just a singer, some of them last, but most of them are not great.
Right.
And so I was thinking, I was explaining to Ezra about Offspring,
Oh,
that
yeah.
band. So there was I don't know if you remember, and this is just kind of a side thing, but a few years ago, there was a plane flying over Ukraine or something that got shot down. It
Oh,
was kind of a
yeah.
big story. Well,
Yeah.
on that plane were all the top AIDS researchers in the world,
Mhm.
except one. The one is the lead singer of The Offspring.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah.
and so like them or not, they're still producing and they're still relevant-ish to, they're still doing what they do and they're still producing albums with songs that are good if you like
Yeah.
Offspring, which I do, and for the most part, but they don't fall off. They're still together. They're still doing their thing. And I think the
Yeah.
intellect has something to do with that, and also that having a different perspective. I think that many of these individuals are first one thing, not and a musician second or something.
Yeah.
So I think Calder was an engineer that happened to do art, but he was also a kind human being that interacted with others and happened to do art, but also I think the human interaction was first and not his art. His art wasn't the primary thing, and therefore he didn't get too precious about it. He didn't get too caught up in people understanding it, because it really was meant to be understood how you understood it.
Right.
And I think that's admirable characteristic. So I encourage anybody. The grandson's name is Alexander S.C. Rower, and he's in charge of the archive. I didn't realize I had this book called Calder Sculpture, and that maybe we got it when we were in Washington. It's the National Gallery of Art in Washington.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
maybe we picked it up then, but I recommend that, and then just recommend searching it online. I think I might put some links to some of my favorites,
Okay.
so we can. I'll try and get that onto the site so you can just see some of my favorite pieces, and they're generally on just art sites that will carry them. But the best way is to experience it in person. If you hear of one close to you, go see it and spend some time with it, and you'll be happy. And then go out and do some art and share your art, whatever that art is. I encourage everybody to go and share it with somebody, spend some time doing art and sharing it, because I think it's very important.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds good.
I'm glad.
I had something I wanted to talk about, but it kind of passed, so it's gonna feel not at all related.
Okay.
But when you're talking about food,
Okay. Yeah.
I've just been thinking about food since then.
Okay.
So I want to know if you have any experience with this topic. There's a guy who has come into the bank a few times to cash his check, who's from Mexico.
Okay.
And the last few times he was there, he had mentioned that somebody he knew or somebody he was close with had died.
Right.
So one week it was one of his buddies' kids who fell off a bridge or something, kind of on accident. And then last week it was his stepfather had a heart attack. And
Yeah. Oh goodness.
and so he's stayed in pretty good spirits about it. Like, he's a pretty happy guy.
Yeah.
But each time he talked about it, he would also talk about food a lot.
Sure.
And so I wonder if, being in Tucson and being in Arizona for a long time, if you've noticed a connection with Mexican food and death in their culture.
I think the connection with in the culture of Mexico between death and food is so pervasive as to be completely understood, but also completely not understood. So it just is. It is just, if you go to like Dia de los Muertos, a goodly portion of the observation of that is putting the ancestors' favorite food on display. And kind of in the celebration, funerals and such, it's going to also be about the food. And any situation is between Mexico, Catholicism, LDS, all the death, right?
Yeah.
They're very similar, is Like the big dish with us is funeral potatoes. The big, most of the dishes in a lot of the big celebratory dishes in Mexico are a commemoration of one death or another. Maybe it's of Jesus. So like tamales are a holiday thing because you're supposed to, there's some story there, or certain dishes are definitely related to Christian observance.
Yeah.
But also death is a big part of it. So yeah, I think it's interconnected because it's an element of social, family, memory, nostalgia related to the person that's passed.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting too, because I don't know if my coworker picked up on that as much.
Yeah.
Because he'd said like he was like, oh, I should maybe be a little healthier so I don't have a heart attack too.
Sure.
But he's like, then I'll go home every day and have like 10 tortillas, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I do the same thing. That sounds great.
Yeah.
But my coworker was like, oh, you should eat less of them. Like try to be healthier. And it's like,
No.
like I don't think he should. I think that it's important to him.
I think it's a thing because I was just in Juarez last week. I can't tell you how much fun I have there. Just because of who the people are. But it's always like, oh, I should eat better. I think it's kind of a running gag. Really, it's
with
them. It's like, oh yeah, I should eat better. Only 2 different kinds of meats at lunch.
Yeah.
I'll only buy 2 dozen tortillas tonight, not 3, or things like that.
Yeah.
No. It's so basic. It's just like water. It's just like water to me. That was always like, dude, it's breakfast and that's your 5th beer. Because it's just like water. It's light beer. It's just like water. And so not terribly healthy, but then also they also are, because all of them work hard and exercise and stuff, but they don't make a big deal about the exercising. They make a big deal about, oh, I should do better. It's kind of a running gag.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, if I had someone, making fresh tortillas at home for me, I'd eat 10 easily.
Yeah, that was the little shop I went to in Mexico City that's got the Michelin star. There's a short little lady with a big tray of masa, and so she makes the corn tortillas for you for your order. And I could eat those. I just open my mouth and shove them in. Come on, keep them coming. So no, I think that's a very apt observation that it's connected.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation. I know this is we keep trying different things, a little bit of a departure, but still I like.
Oh, yeah, I think it's great.
I like the conversation of it. So
awesome.
All right. Take care.
Well, thanks for that. I'll get ready for next week, and
all right, have a great week, and talk to you soon.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.